Rangers Journal Night.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Rangers Journal. I love doing these pods after a great European night, and this is special for that reason and that reason alone, because there's nothing to be happy about in the league at the moment, but we have these Thursday nights in Europe and they continue to deliver. Kev, how are you this evening, mate?
I'm good. I'm glad to be back on after being off for a few weeks. And just like you said, buzzing after last night's result and performance.
Yeah, I thought you'd been sin bin, mate, but you were telling me before you've been pretty busy at work. So great to have you back on. I'll go around the room. Ryan, back on again, mate. Nice to see you. How are you?
So get a bit of consistency back. That's 2 weeks in a row I've been back on, so that's me. Dusted off the cobwebs, so I'm glad to be back, and I'm sure we'll get plenty to talk about after last night. I'm buzzing, mate, as well.
I'm hoping so. I do go into these things worrying that will last the whole time, and I need to think of things to say. But I think after last night and the various different things we can talk about, it shouldn't be a problem this evening. Doug, welcome aboard as well, mate. How are you?
Not bad. Just it seems awfully coincidence. These guys, they're busy, and then all of a sudden, an amazing European win, and their time's all freed up, and they're back in the pod. Now it's good to see the guys back. Yeah, as I say, as like most chairs, I'm very happy today.
Doug, I'll stay with you. Just going into last night, what was your feelings? You know, before you went on the pre-match, but what was your feelings of our chances of coming away with something? Because I got to say, us on the pre-match were really kind of negative.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were kind of like that. I mean, I really didn't. I kind of didn't know what to expect. I said on the Monday when I was asked that, you know, I genuinely thought it could go either way. We could continue on our poor form, or, you know, Thursday night Jers would come back. And I had a sneaking suspicion we'd do okay, because the players do have a tendency to lift themselves for bigger games. And as I say, our European run this year, as is in many years, has kind of been in dire opposition to our league form. So I thought we'd be okay. I wasn't expecting us to be as good as we were, though. As I say, it was a really enjoyable game due to that. I was kind of thinking maybe like a battle and draw kind of thing, kind of like what we did against Leipzig in the first leg, where although we didn't get a draw there, but it was kind of like a really battling kind of game, and we had to really put the effort in. I kind of thought it might have been something like that, but yeah, as I say, I was very pleasantly surprised with how good we turned out to be.
Good stuff. And Kev, it was a strange, well, I guess strange formation. I guess we thought it was probably going to be a 5-4, 5-3-2. I can't get the numbers right. It was very much like a Walter Smith setup, though, wasn't it?
I think I spent about half an hour when I seen the lineup trying to work out what shape we were actually going to be playing and what players are going to play in each position. I think it sort of turned out to be a sort of 5-4-1 with Czerny sort of supporting, sort of playing in that more advanced role. It was interesting to see how we were going to set up. I think it was probably clever when you think about it, because I don't think a Jose Mourinho team, especially this Fenerbahce team, are comfortable with having the ball, whereas with our shape, we sort of forced them to have a lot more of the possession. I think we finished in like 37% possession last night. So it was interesting to see, because I think we are a really good counter-attack team. We've seen that in any of the games in Europe and against Celtic as well. So I think the actual setup was very clever. I definitely wouldn't have predicted it going into the game, if I'm honest. I thought it would have been our sort of standard setup. So it was certainly interesting anyway.
And Ryan, just on the formation, was that a surprise seeing that lineup for you as well?
Yeah, definitely, mate. I'm buzzing with Barry, but just thinking a wee bit outside the box. I'd imagine Mourinho would have been prepping his team on past formations and styles. So they're saying it at Foxton, but you know, it's a good one to have over Mourinho anyway. I did fancy us to get something. Always do in Europe. But I didn't see us winning as comfortably.
Doug, on the I guess the kind of mind games, but leading up to the game, Mourinho obviously is great to watch. I've always I liked him all through the years, to be honest with you. Even when he was going through his grumpy phase, he was a wee bit in good form this week, pretending not to know who Philippe Clement was. When obviously he was accused of being a defensive type manager, and he bigged Barry up. But I've got to say, I felt it was being a wee bit tongue in cheek with his comments about being kind of more worried about Barry being the manager. What did you think?
Yeah, probably a little bit of that. I mean, let's be honest. Jose Mourinho is one of the best managers of the last couple of decades in world football, and Barry Ferguson's managed Kelly Hart. So there is a bit of Mourinho's got a bit of rights to sort of maybe look down a little bit on Barry. But at the same time, it was still an unknown quantity for him. Like Ryan's saying there, he would have been looking at the team that had been playing up till recently, which was obviously Philip Clement's team. So there would have been a little bit of the unknown. He wouldn't have known potentially what Barry would do. So there would have been a little bit of truth in that. But I'm sure he probably does respect a little bit in regards to him as a player. But I think I kind of got the feeling that Jose, obviously he did his coaching badges in Scotland. And he's got a lot of friends from that time, so I'm sure there's a little bit of affinity there. But I think he was more just I've not got anything to say because I don't really know anything about Barry Ferguson, so I'll just big him up a bit and do it that way.
Well, let's look into the game, Kev. It didn't take long. Well, I had this in my mind today that football is a game of inches, but actually it was a game of millimetres last night in many ways, good and bad for us. Dessos takes a the night ball gets him in the box, takes a shot, cleared off the line. Was there any thought in your mind that it might have actually crossed over the line to put us ahead? Because I've got to say, I was surprised.
Originally, I found myself shouting at the TV for Dessos actually not putting a bit more power in the shots. I thought it was cleared off the line. I thought it was actually a pretty timid effort once he'd actually rounded the keeper. But obviously, when I went in and you seen the images that came up around 5 minutes later, I was like, wow, I don't think I've seen anything as close in terms of over the line. Usually when you see the goal line technology and you think it was close, but when it actually shows you it's like miles over. Whereas this was, I don't think it could have been any closer.
No,
but no, it was a great way to start. It was a good bit of, I suppose, fortune you could say to sort of get his kick started, especially with it being so early on in the game.
If I can stay with you, Kev, how did you feel that opening 5-10 minutes went for us?
I thought the opening 5 minutes
overall.
I think the opening 5 minutes, I thought we started okay. It seemed a bit scrappy. Even the goals seemed scrappy in terms of the build-up. It was, I think, Diamonde sort of gets a break of the ball at the edge of the box and ends up just sort of falling in Dessos' feet. I think that the start of the game was maybe always going to be scrappy, and I think we needed that goal to be so early on. I think because the players, Barry touches on it in his press conference, I think he said they had a couple of hours of trying to teach them this new shape and how they were going to play, and you could probably tell that right from the offset. But I think that goal really settled our nerves and really helped us. And what it then done was force Fenerbahce to have to try and come out and have a go at us, which clearly wasn't their game plan anyway.
No, and Kev, Ryan, look, there was a comment there that 3-5-2 works. Is that something you'd like to see continue for the rest of the season, or is it only really a formation that works in these kind of European settings where teams will, they will like to counter-attack on them? They're not going to sit with 10 men in the final third of their half. What do you think of going forward with this?
I would probably go with it against Celtic, to be honest. Celtic will give us space in behind. That's probably where we're at our best with counter-attack, and so I wouldn't mind going with a kind of European formation against them. I'm not so much sure about trying to play a counter-attack when you're at Ibrox against Ross Kennedys and Motherwells and stuff. We really need to take the game to those teams, but I wouldn't be against playing that formation against Celtic because it looks like it could work.
Doug, you know a wee bit more than me on the tactical side of why some formations work and some don't. I would say in the last couple of the Motherwell game and St Mirren game, both those teams did come at us. It wasn't like they sat in the kind of typical way. Would it work in a situation where teams do kind of come out a wee bit against us in this league like they've done in the last few weeks?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely works again. It definitely works against teams that come on you because in my opinion, that formation is generally one that it gives you defensive solidity because you've got that opportunity for everyone to kind of fall back into a five and give you a really strong defense. So if you've got a team coming on to you like that, you can do that, cover your space, but then still have options for the counter attack. Particularly if you've got quick wingers, which we and Jeffrey and Yilmaz, if those are the two playing, we definitely do. Even Sterling, Sterling's not super quick, but he's by no means slow. So if you're playing him, so you've got that option. I do think we could, you could play it in the league but we would need to be more aggressive. I think I would want to see if we played it against, like Ryan's saying, if we're playing against teams that are sitting in against you, you'd need to be more aggressive. And push the wingers right up so that we're the ones that are really advancing. And then maybe even having one of your centre back players kind of stepping up a little bit as well, so that you're really kind of trying to smother the other team and giving yourself lots of sort of little triangles that you can create passes in, so that you're then moving their players around, and that's where you would then start to create gaps. But to do that, you have to play quick and you have to be incisive. And those are two things that we've been really, really poor at this season. So, our passing over the last couple of months has been atrocious. And we have this really bad habit of, when things aren't seemingly work, we kind of slow down and just end up passing the ball just casually from side to side. That'll not work. If you try and do that with this formation, we'll continue to go nowhere. So it would require Barry to get a bit of zip into the team, get them to be more aggressive. And I think they did do that last night. Like you say, we started really quickly. And like Kev said, it was a little bit of luck that with the ball bouncing, but that luck came from the players pressing. Cherney getting in there, Diomande got in there first, and then Cherney, the guy, tried to sort of spin on himself, but Cherney was straight in, smothering him, and the ball ricocheted over, which then found its way to Dessers. So a combination of luck, but it was our aggressiveness in the press that got us there. And we kept doing that throughout the game, and we were getting second balls and winning second balls, and that led us to then obviously being able to counter. So we need to get that aggressiveness into our domestic game, and that'll make a huge difference.
If I can stay with you, Doug, over the course of the next 20 minutes, there was a lot of pressure on us. Seemed like it was corner after corner. I mean, I think it was 41 at one point for us, but they were putting the ball right on top of the goalkeeper. They'd obviously looked at that, and eventually they do score. But looking at that, maybe midsection of the first half, they did apply the pressure. Did you feel we really did we really kind of come out of that as best we could? We only losing the one goal. Could it have been worse?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, they had a couple of chances. One in particular that sort of swung up towards the top corner, went a bit wide. I think Butland had a save as well prior to that. We were always going to have periods like that. They're at home, they're a good side. So we weathered the storm quite well, I thought, overall, throughout the game. And in particular, and I'm sure you'll get onto it, but later in the second half as well, was a lot like that. It was just ball after ball after ball into the midfield, into the defence. But we dealt with it really well. In particular, certain Balogun were immense. They were getting to so many balls, and so we dealt with it really well. But we did have a little bit of luck. Some of their shooting was really off. And like you say, we come out of that period pretty well, only losing that one goal. And to be fair to Butland, he's a bit unlucky. He's right where the ball is. His hands are just below it. He's beaten by the pace and probably a bit unexpected, because the boy hooks it around Balogun just really, really well. So I think that was just unfortunately just a good goal that we kind of lost there. So we came out of that well, but it wasn't. Let's just say it wasn't all luck. It was a lot of it was good defending and top defending from Suter and Balogun.
Ryan, he's mentioned the Suter and Balogun, but we didn't start the game with Balogun playing. Obviously, Robin Popper goes off. I very much feel Butland made a mistake coming for this one, and maybe should have trusted Popper to head it back to him. It was a pretty brutal headbutt on Popper from Butland, obviously accidental, but it looked a bad one.
Aye, I think Butland is experienced enough to know he should have took a couple of steps back. He closed the angle too tight for Popper, so obviously Popper's going to hesitate. It didn't end up a bad thing. It's not really nice to say, but Balogun came on and he had an absolute stormer. Thing with Balogun is you would love to be able to keep him fit and play him consistently. But I think Butland, he's got those crazy moments when he comes out, and it was absolutely mental. But Aye, probably didn't work out to be a bad thing because Balogun come on had a cracker.
Kev, I guess you probably agree with that. I did see, I think it might have been Adam Thornton on Twitter earlier on posted, I guess, whatever you got, that heat map thing where it like a spider's web type idea, and saying we should be looking at a player 10 years younger with those same kind of characteristics. It is just a shame we've got Balogun this kind of late in his career, and obviously the injury, not even injury, just being able to play 2-3 games in a week is not something he can do.
Aye, absolutely. I'd probably still argue that Balogun's our best defender, even still. I think it is just a shame. Maybe not even so much his age. I think it's just more of the lack of the ability to play that sort of consistent run of games that we require. Because even though he is the oldest centre-back we've got, he still has pace, still has strength, still has all the attributes to be a great centre-back. So I think it's not even, I know he got his 100% in his aerial duels last night, but even the way sometimes he can carry the ball out from the back, I find so impressive at times with Balogun. And he is a decent footballer with the ball at his feet. It's not as if he's just good at making clearances. I think Katic is maybe an example of someone that is like a great defender, but probably not so much good with the ball at his feet. Whereas I think Balogun does give you all that. And if we're able to go into the market in the summer and pick someone up with similar-ish numbers to Balogun, but at a good age, then yeah, I think we're on our winners, to be fair.
And Doug, much maligned the last couple of weeks, especially the last week's game against Motherwell. Václav Černý didn't have a good game the other day there, but certainly yesterday shows why he probably will have a price tag that won't likely be out of our region to buy. Not necessarily sure I do want him because he does need to do well in the league and he's a bit hit and miss with that. But if you've seen Man City score a goal like the second goal for us last night, it would be all over the Twitter feeds and everything, all over the socials, because that was a fantastic pass and a fantastic finish by Černý, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, you say he's not doing that well in the league. Top equal scorer with Dessers in league goals this season. He's by far our most effective midfielder in terms of goals and assists. I was actually looking at it last night. We haven't had a winger score as many goals as Václav Černý since 2018 when Joss Windass got 18 goals, and he played a lot of that season in central attacking mid as well. So he's been our most effective winger in quite a while. Sima was pretty close to be fair, but to be honest, I'm the same as you. I would love to sign him permanently, but the price tag was always going to be the issue. But now that we've got the takeover on the horizon, I'm sitting there going, well, can they push the boat out and make that? Because that's the type of thing I want to see from the takeover, us to be able to take that step and start to get the occasional. I don't expect us to sign £6 to £8 million players for every single position, but when you find a player who makes the differences in big games, those are the type of players that you occasionally need to push the boat out for. We did it with Ryan Kent, and he made a difference towards winning the league, towards getting to a European final. These are you need one or two of those type of players, and he could be that. He's not someone we'd be buying for the transfer model in terms of selling on, because he's a little bit older. We would be buying him because he's effective now, and he could potentially be someone, as I say, who would next season also get 15 plus goals. But yeah, as I say, really effective player. I think he's at his best in these games because he gets that space. The pitch opens up in front of him, and he can, he's got a real ton of pace, and he can. He'd actually looked really knackered just prior to the sort of 5-10 minutes prior to that. But once he got on the ball, he was just straight along, and he does occasionally dilly-dally when he gets in these positions, and he can sometimes hold on to the ball too long and maybe lose it. But there was no question in that one. It just ran straight in, and he took two perfect touches and slipped it straight in.
Do you agree, Ryan? Would there be somebody that you'd like to push the boat out to get? I'm just worried. The age thing is the worry. You wouldn't be buying him to, as Doug said, to sell on. You'd be having him for the rest of his career, likely anyway, and maybe a good 4 or 5 years. Is he someone you would push the boat out that kind of maybe £6 to £8 million bracket?
Aye, I definitely would. I think he's effective massively for Rangers. I agree with Doug. I hope that you're not expecting these owners to come in and buy £10 million players and all that, well, every transfer, but you're just hoping they can come in and give us a transfer budget. At least you don't need to sell to buy. Cherny wouldn't be a sell-on player, but he would be effective, and you know what you're getting with him. He'll hit the ground running right away. You wouldn't need a settling period or anything with him either. But if it's going to take a big chunk of the transfer budget, something you might need to rethink, obviously, because there's more than one position needed at the moment, I would say, definitely. So if we had a decent, you'd say you got 15 million to spend, you would definitely pay the 7 or 8 million for him. But it's just all really depending on how much money we do have to spend.
He's also available regularly, which is a big thing.
Yeah, he's very rarely injured. Definitely, that's a good thing as well.
Kev, I was going to say, feel free to come in on the Cherny subject of whether you'd keep him or not. But I wanted to, so on you go.
I was going to. I was hoping you were going to ask. To be fair, I probably wouldn't. Personally, I think his numbers are great this season. I've seen the same stat that Doug got as well. I suppose my argument is I think every Rangers winger should be getting these numbers. I think the amount that we dominate the games, I think the reason why we've not is probably through poor recruitment and probably unfortunate with Seema's injury as well last season, and I think he would have done it. I think for me there's a few contributing factors. I think one, his age is probably the biggest one. I think if we are investing in someone, it probably needs to be where we can get a sell-on clause if we're spending that amount of money. Although I do think he is quite effective, or he has been really effective around the box, I do think he's wasteful with a lot of his possession though. So I do think we could probably still get a player that can contribute the numbers, but maybe technically better and maybe younger with the right sort of scouting in place. I do think he's a good player. I think if the price was right, I'd be more. I probably wouldn't go over 5 million for him just purely based on his age. I definitely wouldn't go and spend 8 million. I don't think, even if he was to go and maybe add another 5 goals or so. So I think we probably will be outpriced. I suppose it's whether Cherny wants to commit his career to Rangers as well. I think if we do end up going on an even stronger run in Europe, getting to the quarterfinals, semi-finals, I think there'll be a lot more teams that are probably be able to offer higher wages than what Rangers are going to be able to. I think that's going to be the thing as well, not just the transfer fee, but probably the wages that he's probably going to be looking for as well, depending on how well this season goes for him in Europe. That is, because obviously domestic football is done.
I'll stay with you, Kev. I think a few players last night might have added a few million onto their price tags, which is great. It's just unfortunate they've not been able to recreate a lot of this stuff in the league. And Diamandi's one of those players that goes missing. But I've had on multiple repeats today that little kind of thing he did in midfield where he goes round 3 or 4 players and comes away with the ball. Yeah. And he's got that in his locker, and that contributes to the result last night. What did you think his performance overall?
I thought his performance was excellent. Same with Raskin, same with Barron as well, especially with Barron, considering he's been out for so long. I think when you were talking about the formations earlier on, I don't think we probably should do the 3-5-2, but I think we need to find a way to have a midfield 3. I think that's probably where we've not seen enough of Diamondi and Raskin. I think the fact that they have to carry that role out, and I think we get overrun in the midfield near enough every game in the SPFL, and we're asking too much of they two, but they probably can't contribute the way they need to. I like how Diamondi had a bit more free space to go forward, and I think that's where he can then sort of thrive to an extent. Whereas I think when you're just sitting with that 2 in the midfield, he's just get too much defensive responsibility, and it actually takes away from probably some of the strengths in his game. So I think we maybe would see it more if we were to have either a 4-3-3 or if we were to go with the 3-5-2, because I think that's why he was able to flourish last night. But yeah, I've seen that reposted so many times, that we sort of clip where he's just like turning people inside out in the middle of the pitch. And he's got that in his locker. I think he's technically gifted. I just think he needs a bit more freedom in that midfield, which I think the 3 gives him. And that's where it's a real struggle in that sort of 2 and that sort of current formation we've been playing all season.
Doug, I might be wrong, but the managers like Gerrard not play with 3 in midfield? And if that is the case, why did we change? Because that's when we were dominant over these teams.
Different managers, different philosophies. I'm not sure specifically why Clermont fell into this particular formation. I think myself and pretty every Rangers fan, I think, in the universe has been in agreement for a long time that we do not need to play 2 defensive midfielders in domestic football games, except for maybe against one team. And it's been something that I think most of the fan base has cried out for, that when you've brought in a player, when you look at how he was at Northland, was a attacking midfielder, creative, and good going forward, chipping in with goals and assists, something we've desperately needed from a midfield. And then you place him in a more defensive position. It just feels like a waste. And I think that's what we've seen from Diamande. I do not think we've seen the best of him this season by a long shot. I think games like last night show that he's got much more to provide. And if we give him a bit more freedom, like Kev says, a little less defensive responsibility, and let him be a bit more advanced in the pitch, that you'll get more out of him. We should be able to, like, if you play the three, you get that balance. You could also just play, rather than having the midfield with the two defensive and the sort of the 10 or attacking mid, you can play with one defensive and two attacking mids, and play it that way. And then you can have your wingers pushed out wider because you've got more coverage in that attacking part of the pitch. I think that would also help with the problem we've had where our 10 has kind of just been bypassed a lot because the ball goes out to the wing, because when you've got another player beside them, there's more incentive for the ball to go into that area before it goes out wide. And again, that moves players from the opposition inwards before you're putting the ball out wide and gives them more space. And so again, you're moving your opposition around and making those areas more effective, because we've got the players to play that. You've got Raskin or Barron, who you could have in that sitting position. Raskin would obviously, I think, right now be the first choice. And then instead of going, should I play Hadji, should I play Barami, should I play Lawrence or Rice or whoever it was, you can pick two of them and go, all right, I'm going to pick the two. I've seen a lot of people saying you can't play Hadji and Barami together. And I think that's in part because we've been playing one of them as the winger, and neither of them are really suited to that, because neither of them have quite got the pace, or I think the explosiveness that we'd like from a winger. But if you were playing the two of them imagine they'd be able to do a lot of really good interchanging. They're both very technical players. I think they're both that, like, a little bit cut above in terms of their technicality. You could probably get a lot of good player of those two in terms of passing and moving and then putting the ball out. We've just not been able to try anything like that, because our left side in particular, we've just never had available options. So ideally, if we can get, obviously, I feel like I've been saying this all season, but ideally, if we can get Cortez playing and fit in that position, or if we get to the summer and we're still in the same position, bring in someone else and have options at that left wing, we could maybe see stuff like that. It probably won't be those particular options. Hadji, I think, is at this point almost certainly going, and Barami apparently is unhappy, so we'll need to see what happens there. But that's another big thing that we've been hampered by this season. Not only playing players not necessarily in their best positions, Diamande, Hadji, but not having the backup there and the players to be able to play, I think, the best. So it's one of the small concedes that I'll give Clement, in that he never really had a team to play, I think, the way he wanted to play. So that hurt him a bit, but of course on the other side of that, he should have changed the tactics to account for that, and he never did.
Yeah, I think you're spouting Clement propaganda there, Doug, with that I never had a team nonsense. Anyway, let's move on back to the game. Kev, come back to you. I mentioned earlier on to you this was game of millimeters, because we get two what I think great finishes by Dessers, chopped off by the finest of margins, and in fact, I'm not even convinced that they both were offside. What do you make of both of them, and what do you think of the offside decisions?
Oh, I think Stuart's inquiry needed for the first one, to be fair. I was talking to my dad on the phone this morning about it. I didn't think that the first one was offside, even when I still wasn't convinced when I seen the lines and where it came from and the arm and where it was drawn from. I definitely don't think he was offside. Or at least you couldn't tell in the images that they were showing on the television. The second one, I think it was like just offside. He's like so unlucky. You're talking about like a millisecond quicker, and then they're both onside. And do you know what, I'm gutted for Dessers, because I thought that's probably the best performance I've seen him put in a Rangers shirt, and he probably deserved the hat trick. To be fair, the work that he was putting in both on the ball and off the ball, I thought he was superb last night. And if he got a hat trick, it would have been well deserved. But I suppose we've done multiple podcasts and multiple conversations on Cyril Dessers. He is an enigma, and last night just summed that up. But yeah, I thought he was really unlucky. There's a lot of times you've been frustrated with Dessers over the last couple of seasons with these offsides, where he's been miles off and he just doesn't seem to be looking across the line. I just thought he was really unfortunate last night. So unlucky.
Oh, well. Ryan, I remember when Clement signed and he was flying over and there was a picture of him watching a game. And on the picture, Dessers is offside. And I thought that was hilarious at the time because he was always getting caught miles offside. But last night, it seemed to be just because he was physically bigger than the nearest defender that he was called offside, because I think it was the top of his arm, which technically is a playable part of the body, I believe. So that's why he was offside for first one. I'm trying to think of it both because they're both so close. So, what do you make of it? Is there any blame on Dessers for, as Kev said, not kind of watching the line close enough? It would have been too harsh.
No, I think it's a bit harsh on him. Especially the first one. I agree with Kev. I actually don't, even watching them draw the lines, I'm not totally convinced he is offside.
Yeah.
He's very, very unlucky with that. But from the replays, I think you could tell the second one was offside just. But Dessers was brilliant last night. That was a great performance for Dessers. He led the line fantastically. That's what you want for your centre forward away from home. I'd be harsh to say he needs to time his runs better, because he was, as we say, he was milliseconds away from a hat trick. He might not have got the second chance if he scored the first one, but I thought he was brilliant last night.
He actually digs out Jeffy for his delayed pass. In his post match, he does say he's got Jeffy just delayed his pass ever so slightly. Barry did say it was a great pass from him, but you could tell, because I think Jeffy probably could have released the ball just that slight bit quicker than he would have been onside.
Not actually his fault, yeah.
And without like sort of drawing up conspiracy theories against Rangers in Europe or whatever, but like when I seen the line though, I'm sure the lines came from like below the, like where the badge is on the arm. So that would be a handball, so that shouldn't have been off. I don't think it actually came from his shoulder. So it's just weird how I
thought it was a bit low as well. Okay. I thought the line was a bit low down as well. I thought that as well.
And that's what I thought was strange. And I thought, no, that's surely onside then. But 3-1, I mean, you're not complaining about a 3-1 away in Fenerbahce, but yeah, could have been better.
Doug, we're not complaining, but it is. Let me just think. There's a point I was going to make. That we heard during the week that the IFAB rules are going to change next season, regards the goalkeeper holding onto the ball. Now, why am I bringing that up? Is because there was other mentions that the offside is going to be made more a distance between the players. I can't remember the exact wording, and it's not official at the moment. But certainly, if what I was hearing comes into force next season, then those two goals would have stood, and it just seems just unfair that these things are decided by these lines, millimeters of lines. There's no clear daylight between players, which is okay, technically the rule, but just seems a bit unfair, especially with those two finishes.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately the problem is either way, there's a level of unfairness. Obviously, this was brought in because with the game getting quicker and quicker, you were starting to get more offsides that were slipping through, because basically, linesmen assistant referees can only keep up so much. There's going to be times where they're behind the play and they're not quite seeing it. Referees are not always best placed, and having ref games myself, sometimes if you're a bit too far behind the play, it's just impossible to be able to see the angles and make a good decision. And when there's as much money in football now as there is, you need these decisions to be right. So unfortunately, the alternative is we get the tech in. The tech will be able to do it by the millimeter, and so you're going to be like, that's just. There's always going to be a slight degree of human error potentially, because at the end of the day, you've got humans still viewing it, and like you say, where they choose to draw the lines and things like that will come into it. I think we've seen that's a big issue in Scotland. The people behind the tech are the bigger issue. It's one of those things where I think we'll probably be forever searching for a perfection that just will never come. They'll change rules here, they'll change rules there. Sometimes the rules are also there, or also changed, not necessarily just for the purity of the game, but to incentivize certain things. So sometimes they make rules to incentivize attacking play and things like that. So we've had rules. So, for example, the play on rule was there to incentivize attacking play because you're getting teams who were obviously getting penalised when they were in good position. So you do that to incentivise them, players to continue to attack and play the way they want to. But for this one, I think it's one of those. I mean, everyone's got so many points of view. It should be just the foot. It should just be the legs. It should just be this. It should just be that. We'll probably try another 6 or 7 over the next 20 to 30 years. There'll be problems with all of them. Because, as I say, I don't think there's a perfect answer, unfortunately.
Yep. Let's move on to the third goal. Kev, was a fantastic pass through for Czerny. Now, if that's Matondo on it, you know fine well he's hitting it against the goalkeeper. But as soon as I seen it was Czerny breaking through, I just was convinced. He scores goals like this on a consistent basis. I knew it was going to hit the back of the net. What were you thinking when you seen that pass go through to him?
First, to be fair, to start with, I didn't even realise how good the pass was until you see the replay. But I was the same as you. I think, although I made comment about, I think he's quite slack with his passing in the middle of the field, Czerny. I think he does have composure in front of goal. I think even in his post-match interview, he said that he just only had one thought in his mind and he was going to slip it past the keeper. So he's obviously got that composure, that cool head to be able to run through and make the right decision. He scored multiple goals this season that are very similar. Maybe not running from the same distance. Probably the only worry I would have had, that they touched on it earlier on, I thought he looked knackered and he was going down with cramp 10 minutes before. So I thought he was maybe going to pull a hamstring or whatever running through. But no, good composure. When I was seeing the replay, I thought the pass was even better than the finish. I thought Raskin's pass was excellent. And I thought the actual tactical change to bring on Sterling at right wing back is actually where the goals came from. He intercepts a good cross from St. Maximan, who was posing a real threat at that point. He sort of gets a deflection on the cross, breaks to Raskin, first time pass right through, and it was excellent. Topped off with a good finish. Really good goal. Perfect counter-attack goal, and exactly why that formation and shape worked last night for Barry.
Do you agree with that, Ryan? I'm going to guess you do.
Aye. I thought the pass through for Czerny was brilliant. I agree with Kev as well. I don't know where he found that energy for, because he looked dead in his feet for the 10 minutes prior to that. But it's a bit, you'll find the energy if you're chasing a ball rather than chasing a man. But his composure's fantastic, and he's one of the only players that I'm very, very confident about. When they've got a chance, you've got that feeling he's going to bury it. So I thought Czerny's got that about him, that kind of that clinical finishes and that composure is what we need from our wingers as well. As you say, you're talking about Matondo. You know what I mean? He's already getting himself forward, but it's the composure with your final product, and I think Czerny's definitely got that.
And Doug, I'll come to you on the whole goal, the final goal as a whole. Sorry, what did you make of the pass? What did you make of the finish? And were you feel expecting it to hit the back of the net like I was?
Yeah, pretty much. As I say, I think it just kind of felt like the moment he got the ball that it was only going one direction. Because he was pretty much clear. The defender only catches up right as he strikes the ball into the net. But I mean, it is the pass, not even the pass, but the vision to see the pass. It's one thing. I think you could, although he does hit it beautifully, he actually had leeway to potentially slightly miss-hit, slightly harder, slightly softer, and Czerny potentially still gets to the ball. But to see the pass and then to execute it in the way he does is absolutely superb. And that's, I think another example of Raskin, really taking that step up this season and becoming that player that we thought that he was going to be when he first came in. He first came in really brightly and looking really good, and then obviously got his injury, fell off. And this season he's really come back in, and Mitch keeps taunting how he called it at the beginning of the season, and he did. That he was going to become the quote-unquote 9 million player. I think he's well on his way to exceeding that, because people are going to look at that, and they will, particularly the European performances where he's been excellent throughout. Teams will look at that and say this is a guy that can perform at a high level. He's composed, he's got aggression, he can tackle, he's now showing he can pass. I think the only thing that's missing from his game now is a bit of finishing. We'll see. One of the things I was really encouraged about in the first half of that game was how he was running, making those advanced runs into the box from the deeper position. Again, that's something I think we've missed since Scotty Arfield left. a player that would do that on a regular basis, and he started doing that, and he's getting chances. I forget the game now. There was one game where he was at Man United. He got clean through. He got a good chance, and obviously he did get a headed goal. I think he had a headed chance and last night as well. So he's starting to get chances by making these runs. And if he can improve his finishing a little bit and turn sort of a couple more of them into goals, then he's going to be the complete package, and we will see him move for a good value if he continues on that road.
Ryan, they huffed and they puffed. We were under the cosh, but they never really. Well, I mean, you've got to give credit to Butland because he made quite a few fine saves, but I didn't feel they were ever going to come back after we went 2-1 up. I was fairly comfortable. What did you make of Fenerbahce overall in that game? Do you think they do pose a threat next week?
I think they've got good players, Billy. I was confident in the players to keep them out. Especially so obviously Suter and Balogun were having a great game. I think Tavernier's really found a place at centre half as well. Butland saved that when he touched around the post. That's just as good as a goal. That's absolutely fantastic. He's been question marks over him a little bit this season with some calamities and stuff, but that was a fantastic save. But we kind of restricted them to long range efforts. The Talisca had a few long range efforts, and Maximum really. The crosses from St Maximum were actually really, really good crosses, and we dealt with them fantastically. So Fenerbahce, like St Maximum and Talisca, they've got good players, so they could definitely come to Ibrox and hurt us. The first goal was absolutely huge on Thursday. The first goal, if we get the first goal, gets the crowd behind us. I don't see any way back for Fenerbahce, but so that first goal is really, really important on Thursday.
And Kev, Mourinho did give a warning that this is only half time. It's not over yet, so don't get too carried away. Barry says that he will have the players completely up for it next week. We've got we don't have a game at the weekend. A good tactical decision by Clement there to get us knocked out at the Scottish Cup. So looking forward to next week. What do you expect their setup to be, and how do you expect Fenerbahce to approach this one? Because coming in 2 goals down, you're not in a great position. Especially coming to Ibrox on a Thursday night.
I think the setup will be probably fairly the same. I think we might be slightly more on the front foot. The fact that Fenerbahce are going to need to come out and have a go at us because they're 2 goals down, they're going to need to. I think that will play into our favour, especially with that shape. I'm trying to not get too carried away, but I certainly do think the result could end up being heavier next week. I probably wasn't as impressed with Fenerbahce as what I thought I would have been. I think especially because they come into the game 18 games unbeaten, I thought they were going to be a lot more dangerous. But I think one of their main problems is I don't think they looked particularly comfortable on the ball. I think they lacked a great deal of pace. I thought Dessers looked rapid last night, which was bizarre. But I thought he was getting the better of their centre-backs with pace, with balls over the top, which he just doesn't ever get in the SPFL. Seems to always struggle with it. It needs to sort of come into feet, and he rarely can run in behind. So I think the fact they're going to need to come out and they're going to need to come after us, there's going to be a lot more space in behind, I think, for us to penalise them. So yeah, I'm fairly confident. Obviously, Mourinho was going to say that he's not. I thought his interview was funny, where he said it was actually a good result for him, because he agreed that it could have been worse. And I think at Ibrox, I generally fancy us against any of the teams that are left in the Europa League. Maybe excluding Lyon potentially, who obviously gave us a right good doing at Ibrox this season. But I generally don't fear anyone else that's left in the competition at Ibrox. I think there will be some tough games we could get away from home, but at home, yeah, I've just got good memories of the run to Seville. Yeah, I think we've beaten bigger and better at Ibrox and Fenerbahce, so I'm not overly concerned, especially with that result last night.
Doug, I'd popped up a few of the comments about playing with wing backs next week. Can you maybe explain to me what the difference would be by doing that?
Well, I think if depending where you want to sit them, but I think wing backs allow you to be a bit more attacking, put a bit more pressure on the midfield of your opposition, which might be beneficial. Fenerbahce will have Fred back for this game, and I do think he'll make a difference in their midfield. He's a decent player. and he'll make their midfield a little bit more combative than I think it was in the first leg. So the Lions put a bit more pressure on the midfield, and the big thing, so is it would make us a bit more attacking, which we got so much space to attack in that game. It was unbelievable. That was the thing that surprised me the most from a Mourinho team, especially. And that's the thing that kind of kept me confident throughout the game. I do think there were times that we were lucky in terms that their shooting was just not on at all. They could have scored at least twice, I think, and probably should have scored at least twice from two of their chances. But the thing that, even with that, I was sitting there going, I feel like we'll score again because we were getting so much space to counter. And like Kev said, they have to come and they have to be the aggressors, and they're going to have to push. Even if they don't at the beginning, every minute that goes by without them scoring means that they'll be more and more desperate. So, I'm confident because as long as we're solid and we don't take them lightly, because let's not forget they drew 2-2 with Anderlecht and then beat them 5-2 in the following leg. So, there's nothing necessarily necessarily stopping them coming and winning by 5 goals, winning something like a 5-2. It's in their locker. But I don't see them doing it, because if they play anywhere like that, we will get space. And especially if they're pushing to score, we'll get space. And wing backs could help with that even more, because you'll have those players slightly further forward, so they can play into the attack. If you've got your wing backs pushing forward, you can have Raskin dropping back, so you've still potentially got 4 at the back if you really wanted to. Especially if we're playing Balogun, he can push out a little bit. You can still have a back 4 if there's a sudden turnaround. So we've got players to do the covering. If Barron's playing again, Barron's really good at doing that. He did that early in the season when we still had Tavernier pushing up really high. He would drop into the fullback position. And he would do it when Jeffrey pushed up. He would drop into the left side. So we've got players that can support pushing our wingers or our fullbacks up, if that's something we want to do. But yeah, I don't really see the need to change anything. It worked so well in that game, and I think the same tactic would work again, precisely because they'll have to come on to us, and therefore it'll leave them in a similar position that they find themselves in that game.
That's what I was going to say, Kev. It's kind of counterintuitive when you're the home team. You expect, maybe especially at Ibrox, for us to come out the blocks, and in that last European run we got to the Europa League final, we did score quite a few early goals with Tav at the back post especially. But not playing devil's advocate, I don't know what the word I'm trying to say, but playing to their weaknesses would be letting them have the ball and letting us sit in. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think we've got an advantage with the lead that we're coming in at home with. I do think we will score early. I'm going to sort of put my neck out in the line. I think Rangers will go and win 3-0 next week. I think we'll score early, and then the tie will be done. I think the fact that they do need to come out, I don't think they looked too impressive on the ball. I do agree with Doug that I think that Fred will make a difference to the Fenerbahce team next week. But as long as we don't pick up any needless injuries in training, etc., and we go with that sort of back 3 of Balogun, Suter and Tav, I generally don't think it will cause us any problems. I think there was a lot of needless crosses into the box that Balogun and Suter seem to just be lapping up. But I think if they come out with the same sort of way of trying to play against us, I don't think we've got a problem next week. And the fact that they do need to come out and try and attack us, I think there's going to be plenty of space in behind for us to counter, which is our strength. That's been our strength even under Clement. Nice been an example of it. I think being able to catch teams on the counter has definitely played in our favour. So yeah, not looking forward to next week. I don't have any sort of dreads or anything like that. I think we'll be all good.
Now you look pretty relaxed, sitting back in your chair, rocking away. 3-0 win next week. Can I push you for your man of the match last night? Man of the match, sorry.
Dessers. I think there was a lot. That could have, but I think if I think of who deserves it after, probably he's under the most scrutiny, I think, out of anyone. Maybe him and Tav. But I thought Dessers was excellent last night. And
Ryan, what about you, man of the match?
Yeah, I think there's a few contenders, to be honest, the centre halves especially. Shirley, obviously, affected the game more in the end up, but I agree with Kev. I thought Dessers was brilliant last night. He was very, very unlucky not to have a few more.
And the same for yourself, Doug. You got a man of the match, or is it a team performance?
I mean, I think you can say it's a team performance. I can't remember who it was that put it up. Someone put up a poll on Twitter about man of the match, and it had Dessers, Cherney, Raskin, and I forget. I think maybe Balogun is the fourth. And Cherney was last out of the four. He had with only about 7%. And this is someone that scored 2 goals away from home in a European game, and he's lagging in fourth in a man of the match poll. I think that really says it all about how much the team, had quality all across the park that night. But just to throw something different in there, I think I probably would agree with the guys there, but just to throw something else out, I'm going to say Barry Ferguson for making the changes that he made. This is a guy who, again, his managerial career has been A, not very long, B, mostly at lower levels. He's coming into a huge football club, feeling pressure, no doubt, because of his position in its history and what we're wanting him to do. And he's coming up against one of the greatest managers living. So in one way, it was quite a simple decision. He's just changed the team, and he's basically just went, right, let's just play the same way that they play, and we can kind of match them. And that's worked perfectly. But at the same time, he's obviously he's managed to instill to get that extra bit of aggression out of him in the press and things that he said he wanted. He's managed to get that. So to pull out those two things, to make that tweak in the formation, to be confident enough to make that change, despite them not having had a lot of time to work on it, and then to get a result like that, he's either the luckiest manager or he's on his way to becoming a better one. So I'll give it to Barry.
Look, I'm going to come back for your final thoughts in a minute or two, guys, but just going to plug our sponsors off to the Match I Go. You can get a 10% discount if you use the code Journal10. Now, what do? Well, they've got lots of sports memorabilia. The signed shots is something that's tempting me once payday comes in, because there's a couple in there I quite fancy getting my hands on. But you've got statues, you get pictures, all autographed, things like that. Please go and have a look at the website off to the Match I Go, and of course use the code Journal10 to get 10% off. And also, it'd be remiss if I also didn't remind everyone of the sad news that we lost a Rangers fan last night, Christopher Potter, who tragically died in a car accident before the game. It's not a nice thing for one of our own to go to a game and not come back. We've got very bad memories of disasters like that, obviously, but just wanted to point out that his friends have set up a GoFundMe page for Christopher Potter. So if you could possibly donate for his family, for his funeral costs, all these kind of things at this time, please go to the GoFundMe page. And again, our condolences to all his friends and family. It's terrible news. So again, as I say, no good way of moving on for that. But Kev, just final thoughts on where we are at the moment and what you're thinking for next week.
European form, excellent. Domestic form, much to be desired. Looking forward to next season. I am full of confidence we'll reach the quarter-final. And then, look forward to whether it be Roma or Bilbao.
I'm going to say thanks there to Jimmy. I don't know where we get 91 from. It's telling me we've got nearly 300 people watching. But like and subscribe, people. And I've got some news in a wee minute to tell you why you would benefit from that. Ryan, again, final thoughts this evening. What you thinking?
I'm looking forward to the week ahead, mate. Obviously Fenerbahce and then the Old Firm game on Sunday. My fancies to get through. Definitely fancies to get through on Thursday. Ibrox is, as Kevin said earlier, Ibrox is a fortress for European ties especially. So I absolutely fancies, and to get the monkey off the back with these defeats at Ibrox as well, because I think it's three in a row, isn't it? Prior Thursday's match, so get that monkey off the back, get that win, and sets us up perfectly for Celtic at Celtic Park. And I don't see why we can't set up the same way as we set up on Thursday at Celtic Park. I think we could get a bit of joy at that. So I'm looking forward to this week, mate. It's 2 big games. So I've got a good feeling about both.
Good stuff. And Doug, how are you feeling at this point in time?
Yeah, it's nice to be feeling good about the football again. I really think at this stage, if we don't get through this tie, it'll be our own fault. They have to come to Ibrox and score 3. So all we need to do is play our game, be compact, be confident. Like Kev says, I think there's goals to be had from the way that Fenerbahce play and the fact that they'll have to come on to us. So I really do think that we're going into this in the best possible position. But at the same time, they just don't take it for granted. Don't start thinking about Roma before they've done the job. But feeling confident, I expect us to go through. And then, like Ryan said there, I think we can take that confidence into the Celtic game because it's a more European style of match. And so I expect us to play well, and hopefully we can do something there as well.
Yeah, I echo that, Doug. Thank you very much. Thank you all you guys for coming on. What I do want to say finally, and there was a comment here that I'll bring up because it's quite on this topic. Obviously, the last week or so, we've had news of the proposed takeover from the 49ers group and Marag Parathi, I think is how you pronounce his name. Well, we have an exclusive interview, and it's not Parag himself, but I don't think you could get any closer to this consortium takeover than the source we've got for the interview that's going to go out tomorrow at 5 o'clock. Please like and subscribe to get notifications of that. I've had a watch of it already. It's fantastic. The stuff that has been said in this interview is going to fill you with joy for the next week until the game happens. In fact, it's going to fill you with joy till this takeover happens. So please look out for that tomorrow at 5 o'clock. That's in the evening for that interview. And I couldn't get confirmation from Scott if I was allowed to tell you who it was. So I'm not going to do that in case I get into bother. He's not replied, but it's a big interview. So please look out for that tomorrow. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Thank you for my co-hosts, guests, whatever you want to call it, for coming on this evening and making it a great show as always. So it just leaves me to say thank you for watching, and remember that every night is a Rangers Journal night. Good night.